Welcome back, guys, to AZ Sports On. Today, I'm your host, JT Hill. We got my co-host over there, Quinn Bewley. And today, we're going to be going through our Big 12 power rankings and giving you guys our floors and our ceilings for each team in the Big 12. And we're also going to be breaking down NAU versus ASU. Let's get to the intro. Okay, kicking it off, do you want to go NAU versus ASU? Let's start with NAU ASU. Then we'll give you guys the good stuff, the Big 12 power rankings. So, Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 p.m. Arizona time, the Arizona State Sun Devils will be facing the Northern Arizona Lumberjacks. And this is a pretty big game for ASU, considering that this is the first time they've sold out the crowd since 1998. Actually, I think it's 1988. I don't know. But this is a big game for ASU fans. Not so much for, like, Big 12, all that stuff, but just a big game for the whole Valley because it's starting a great ASU season. So, Quinn, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I'm just going to say my three things that I'm looking forward to seeing. So at third, I'm just going to say I'm interested to see what we have at nickel. So, of course, we lose Shamari Simmons, but on the depth chart, I'm just going to pull that up real quick. I'm pretty sure they have two people listed as the starting nickel. It says, let me find it. It says Montana Warren or Kendrick Breedlove. It'll be interesting because only one of them can start. I do think if they listed them at or, then they're both going to get meaningful minutes. Second thing I want to see is the improved defensive line. I think we developed our guys, CJ Fight, Clayton Smith, and Justin Watley, to become monsters. I want to see them prove why we think they're all that. And my number one thing that I'm most looking forward to has to be the running backs. We have three guys that are all going to get meaningful playing time: Riley Brown, Kyson Brown, and Kanye Udo. I think Kyson Brown is listed as the starter, which is kind of what I expected. I just kind of want to see how this plays out and how they look on the field.
Yeah, I'd say my main thing is I really can't wait to see what the running backs do. I think my main thing is definitely the running backs, like Quinn said, because they have a pretty big running back room with three, I think, Browns: Raleek Brown, Kyson Brown, and Jason Brown. That's a lot of Browns. And then they also got Kanye Udo. Do they got anyone else?
They have a true freshman, Demarius Man Robinson.
Okay, and then I think they
He
have
might
one
play.
more guy. But they have like a pretty big running back room. I think those first three running backs are definitely going to be our main three guys, but who knows, if an injury happens, one of those other guys are going to have to step up. Jason Brown Jr., hopefully he watches the pod. Definitely a pretty cool guy. We met him at the ASU versus BYU game. That was pretty cool. Got a signed shirt by him. And then another big thing, what I can't really wait to see, is how our new kicker does. Kenny Dillingham did say in the press conference, because they have a great kicker does not mean that they're still going to be aggressive on fourth down. And I'm definitely excited about that because ASU doing what they did last year, going forward on fourth down, was a pretty big thing about they were just a gutsy team, and I like that they're not going to get rid of that, but they can, if they have to, they can take and try big field goals. If they need to make a 50, they're going to try it out. And it's a 4th and 10. I think you could see him trying it out. And I'm just really excited to see what this guy can do because I've heard nothing but great things from this guy. Jesus Gomez. Let's see what he can do. I'm very excited to watch him.
Yeah, so overall, I said the three things I'm most looking forward to seeing, but the number one thing that I hope happens is no serious injuries. It would suck to see one of our guys, no matter how high up on the depth chart, go out for the season in this game. You never hope for anybody to get injured, regardless of whatever team you're rooting for. It sucks, and it's just a brutal part of the game. I just really hope that we can avoid them, and I think if we can get out with no major injuries, no matter how close the game is, I think that this would be a huge win for this team.
Yeah, and another thing is injuries are going to happen. It's not like you can run away from them, but minimizing the injuries will be key to this team if they want to make it back to the Big 12 championship, which they didn't have much last year. Obviously, JT did get injured in the last game, but they definitely had that that nice amenity of not having a lot of injuries, which, like I said, you cannot control those. But definitely minimizing the injuries would be a great thing for this team. And next, we're going to be going into our Big 12 power rankings. So we're going to go 16-1 for week 1. And we're going to do this every single week, hopefully on Thursdays. And for this week, we're going to be giving our floors and ceilings for each team because no team has played yet except Kansas State and Iowa State, which, let me be
And
honest, that
Kansas.
and Kansas and Cincinnati plays tonight. But Kansas State and Iowa State both playing definitely gives us a really good sort of what we think about these teams, because I now think different of Kansas State than I did a week ago. And I now think a little bit different than I did of Iowa State than I did a week ago. I thought Kansas State was definitely a favorite to win the Big 12 championship and go. Now I don't have them that high anymore. So let's just get straight into it. Okay, so for my 16th team, I'm going to have to start with the University of Arizona. They just did not do much in the transfer portal, not that I know of, not that I would have checked, not that I really care, but it's kind of obvious. U of A definitely does not have a very big upside. The only thing that I would say is their quarterback, Noah Fafita, but that's pretty much it. I'm just gonna go straight into it. Their floor for me is gonna be 3-9, and their ceiling is gonna be 7-5. I don't see this team going anywhere above 7-5, but don't be shocked if they surprise people and do have a winning record and make it to a bowl game. But also don't be surprised if this team does not get past 3 wins.
Yeah, so my number 16 team in the Big 12, that is Oklahoma State. And it's tough putting them there because there were other teams that I think historically have done a lot worse than Oklahoma State, but it's just the quarterback situation. I don't think that they have a very good one. They lost Alan Bowman, they lost Spencer Sanders a long time ago. They lose Ollie Gordon to the draft. The only reason I would have them being any good is just because Mike Gundy's their coach, and he's done a lot of things in the past. I think their floor would probably be 3-9, and their ceiling, I'll say, is 7-5. I think Mike Gundy, if the pieces fall in the right place, I think Mike Gundy could turn this team around to a 7-5 season. But I just think that the Big 12 has so much depth that Oklahoma State just barely gets the last spot.
Yeah. So for my number 15 spot, I'm going to be having the University of Central Florida. For them, I don't know much about them. The only thing I really do know is that they did lose. Why can't I think of the name? RJ
RJ Harvey?
Harvey to the draft, and he went to the Broncos. That's definitely a major blow for them because he kind of carried their team last season. And UCF, they definitely could have been a great team last season, but I feel like they were an up and down team. And they did almost beat ASU. They were kind of a surprise team, kind of a trap game for ASU, especially with RJ Harvey. But I don't see any upside for them this season. So their floor for me is going to be 3-9, and their ceiling is going to be 6-6. I do have them a little bit better than U of A because just why not? It's U of A.
Yeah, so my 15 seed, that is also UCF. They brought in Taven Jackson, the backup at Indiana. He did play well in his only start against Washington when there was college game day. I think he'll at least be a little bit of an upgrade because they had a revolving door of quarterbacks, none of them heading out as well as UCF hoped. I think Taven Jackson is the guy. I think he'll be decent. They did lose RJ Harvey. They lost Xavier Townsend to the transfer portal. I just don't really know about this UCF team. I know they just brought back Scott Frost after his tenure. I think it was Nebraska. I think that they're just a few years away. This is not their year. This is first year under Scott Frost again, so it's going to take a while, so they're at my 15th seed.
Yeah. That's a pretty good take for them. For number 14, I got to go with Oklahoma State. And the reason I don't have them lower, like U of A at 16, kind of like Quinn had, is because they do have Mike Gundy, and I really like him as a coach. He could definitely turn this program around because just 1 year ago, Oklahoma State was ranked in the top 15, I want to say. That is crazy. I remember looking at the ASU season last year and thinking Oklahoma State was the best team we would play. That just shows you the drastic difference of what happened in 1 year. Oklahoma State could definitely turn things around. So I'm going to be having their floor at 4-8, and I'm going to be having their ceiling at 8-4. Definitely making a big turnaround if possible.
Yeah, so I forgot to do my floor and ceiling for UCF. I'm just gonna say this briefly. I think floor is 3-9 and ceiling is 6-6. back to my 13 seed, Arizona. The only reason I have them above UCF and Oklahoma State is the quarterback, Noah Fafita. I think he is an excellent quarterback, one of the most underrated. Nobody's really talking about him because Arizona was so underwhelming. I think for him as a quarterback, I think it would have been wise to go in the transfer portal. But if Brett Brennan can turn things around and Arizona can have a bounce back season, I love Noah Fafita staying loyal to the team he committed to. I just don't think that that's going to happen. I don't think Brett Brennan is all that amazing of a coach. I think he is seriously under the hot seat and could be fired in year 2 if things go really badly. I think their floor is probably 3-9, and their ceiling, if Noah Fafita can carry this team, probably 7-5.
Yeah, that's definitely a big take considering I do not like following U of A at all. So yeah, I have no clue what happened. Did they even get a single transfer, or did they just have transfers that transferred out?
The only guy I remember, I don't follow Arizona, so U of A fans, feel free to call me out. But the only notable transfer I know is Trace Spivey, Kansas State wide receiver, who is one of the better ones. But
Yeah, so for you U of A fans, we will try to talk a little bit more about U of A. It's just hard being ASU fans to really do that,
yeah,
but we will try our hardest. Okay, for my number 13 seed, I'm going to be going with the University of Cincinnati. My floor for them, I want to say, could be pretty bad. I think they could go 3-9, but their ceiling, I think they could have a lot of upside because they're going to be playing with fire on their butts because they did not have a good season last year. I think their ceiling could be 8-4, having a really great season.
yeah. So my 13 seed is the University of Houston. They had one of the worst offenses in all of Power 4, maybe even all of FBS last year. They definitely tried to address that. Of course, the main thing that everyone's going to say is that they brought in Texas A&M transfer Connor Wegman. I think he still has some potential. I don't think that the Texas A&M system, just Mike Elko's offense in general, just didn't really help him out all too well. I think he has a little bit of potential. Will he reach it at Houston? I don't know. But I do think Willie Fritz is a good head coach. I really liked him at Tulane. I just don't think this is their year. This rebuild is going to take a little bit longer than just I think year 2 under Willie Fritz. Or maybe they could do what Kenny Dillingham did and just turn around this team and go in the college football playoff. No, there's no such thing as a bad take in the Big 12. If someone had Houston winning the Big 12, I wouldn't agree, but I wouldn't say that's out of the realm of possibilities. I think floor is probably 4-8. Ceiling, I'm gonna say 8-4. I think Connor Wegman has a lot of potential.
Yeah, for number 12, I'm going to be going with Houston. And I've just had a lot of respect for Houston because they are kind of the reason why ASU made it to the Big 12 championship. And a lot of people don't remember this. This is just what I personally think of Houston is I want to say in week 8, whenever ASU Kansas State lost to Houston, and that broke the door open for ASU. So that's just
Hmm.
immediately what I think of Houston. So I will always give them respect. So for you Houston fans out there, I love Houston now just because I don't know. I just always like them. I think they're definitely going to have a way better year this season. I think their floor is going to be 5-7, and their ceiling, pretty good, can be 8-4.
Yeah. So I have West Virginia at my 12 spot. They brought back Rich Rodriguez, who I think is a pretty good head coach. The first thing he did is address running back in the transfer portal. If I'm not wrong, I think they got 6 different running backs in the transfer portal, which is just insane. So we know what they're going to do. They're going to run the ball. That's what Rich Rodriguez wants to do. I don't know if he's already announced, but I'm pretty sure Nico Markiel is going to be the starting quarterback. I think he has a potential. He sat behind Garrett Green for a few seasons, but now this is his job, and we'll see what he does. I just don't think West Virginia has the talent top to bottom to compete with the Baylors, the Iowa States, the ASUs of the world. They could do it, like I said. It's the Big 12. You really never know. But I think that they're a fine team. I think that just gets them only at 12th here.
I'm going to be going, this is kind of where it starts to be 11 and down is so hard to predict. At 11, this is kind of a shocker. I got Colorado at 11. And remember, guys, this is power rankings. This is not what we expect the season to go like. We are giving you guys our floors and ceilings. Colorado could be at 1 next week. I mean, they play like North Carolina or Georgia Tech, so it's not going to be that drastic. But Colorado could be at one in the next couple weeks because they do start to do really good. Pretty sure the transfer quarterback from Liberty, what's his name?
Hayden Salter.
Yeah, Kane Salter's starting. That's gonna be pretty big. But I don't trust this Colorado team a lot, especially without Travis Hunter and Shador Sanders, obviously. I think this Colorado team could have a really horrible season and go 3-9, but I think they could also still have a great season. I have their ceiling at 9-3 and floor at 3-9.
Yeah, so my number 11 seed is Cincinnati. So they did beat ASU. I thought that they had a pretty easy path to making the Big 12 championship, and I think they lost most of their games, if not all of their games, after the ASU game. But I still think they have talent. They bring back Brendan Sorsby, who's pretty underrated, and they bring back running back Evan Pryor, the speedster. I think that Cincinnati, they're decent. I just don't think that they have enough talent top to bottom, kind of similar to the other teams. But I
Yeah.
do think after this is when I would say this is the end of probably, I don't know how many tiers, but the lowest tier. And then after this, I think these are like serious contenders for the Big 12, at least right now. So floor, I'd probably say is 3-9, ceiling 8-4.
And if that just gives you a picture of the Big 12, that's 10 teams. 10 teams. There's only one champion in the Big 12. That just shows you how tight the Big 12 is, and it is on a very short string of anything that can happen. And at 10, I'm going to be going with West Virginia. Now, the only reason I have West Virginia this high is because West Virginia fans, most college football fans really like their basketball teams. Usually it's kind of both, like college basketball fans love college football and college football fans love college basketball. College basketball fans for West Virginia are absolutely ticked because they didn't make the March Madness bracket. So they've just been waiting for the college football season to prove something, and that's why I think West Virginia fans are mad. Call me crazy, but I think basketball still has a factor in college football because it's still the same team. Not same team, still the same school, just playing a different sport. Those are the same fans, and they are ticked off ever since March. I think they're going to be pretty mad. Obviously, it's a different sport. The players are different, but the fans are going to be crazy, and West Virginia Stadium, it's kind of annoying. I think Quinn has told me how much they sing one song 45
Yeah.
times, but I'm gonna be having their floor at 5-7, and I'm gonna be having their ceiling at, drumroll please, 7-5. Not gonna be a crazy season, but they're gonna be a bowl team more than likely.
Well, I'm never doing a drum roll ever again because I did that and half the stuff on my setup fell down.
Yeah, I was just gonna put in a drumroll sound effect. You did not need to do that.
Anyways, my number 10 seed is Colorado. I don't know why I'm saying seed. My number 10th ranked team, that is Colorado for me. I think that Caden Salter, he had a good 2023 year. I think they went to a New Year's Six Bowl. He didn't do as well in 2024, transferred to Colorado. The reason I just don't think he'll pan out is I'm not comparing him to Shador Sanders, but Shador Sanders, I think he had one of the lowest rates of play action in the country, and Caden Salter had top 3 most, at least his offense used play action third most in the country or somewhere high. I just think it's going to be hard to adjust from a play action centered offense to a team that usually doesn't do play action. And I don't know. I don't know if Caden Salter's all that. They do have Juju Lewis, who he'll probably get playing time. At least that's what Deion Sanders is saying. I think that floor, I'd probably say, is 4-8, and ceiling, I'm going to say 9-3. 9-3. I think that they still could be in that Big 12 championship discussion. I just don't think that they'll do it this year.
Yeah, I don't have them that high on my list. That's it. It's the Big 12. Anything can happen. I think Colorado has a really great coach in Deion Sanders, and they could definitely make it far. For my number 9 rank is going to be BYU. Now, BYU is lower on my tier because their quarterback is wearing number 47. I'm just kidding. That's not why, but their quarterback is wearing number 47, and it's going to be disturbing me. I'm not going to be able to watch BYU as much anymore because he's wearing 47. I'm just going to be crying every time I see it. But BYU I do have lower because they definitely did lose some key pieces going to the draft, and they definitely have a great coach in Sataki. I think his last name is Sataki, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, Kalani Sitake. Dude, that he's actually pretty cool. But he's a great coach and I think I like what he does, but I have them lower on my power rankings for this week because of the uncertainty at quarterback and it's we don't know what he's going to be looking like. Jake Retzloff definitely was great last season. He was kind of a little bit of a surprise, but I don't know about this quarterback. So currently they are at my number 9 in the power rankings. Their floor I'm going to be having at 6-6, so I think they're going to be a decent team, and I think their ceiling is 8-4. I don't think they're going to be a really good team, but I don't think they're going to be a really bad team. They're just going to be right in the average, and that's what I have for my floor and ceiling for BYU.
Yeah, so I also have BYU at my number 9 seed. Most of this is quarterback uncertainty. They're starting a true freshman punt quarterback, Bear Bachmeier. We don't really know. He could be lights out or he could have some freshman mistakes. I just don't really know. I think their floor is probably 5-7, and that's just because I don't think they're that talented of a team. Their ceiling, this might surprise people, but I have their ceiling at 10-2 just because of how easy their schedule is. They have the easiest schedule in all of Power 4. They have 4 games against teams that I think are better than them. The rest I don't, which means I think they might get 8 wins if they play up to their caliber that I think they could. And if they're actually seriously a good team, I think they could knock off half of the higher tier opponents that they play.
Yeah, so my number 8 spot in these power rankings, this is kind of shocking. I have Kansas State. Now, I would not have them this low if I didn't get to see the kickoff in Ireland, but I did. So Kansas State is lower on my power rankings. I have their floor at a shocking 6-6, and I have their ceiling at 9-3. Now I think this could either go really bad or really well with Avery Johnson, and that's the main factor. Avery Johnson did not have a good game against Iowa State. Now, obviously, I get it. It was raining. It was crazy weather. But he did not show me that he was capable of winning a Big 12 championship. And that just scares me. If you're a Kansas State fan, I would be scared. They did make a little bit of a comeback, but they could not get the job done. If I'm a Kansas State fan, I am feeling scared.
Yeah, so my number 8 team, I have TCU, and I was looking at the list and I thought they were kind of low, but I just think that they don't have the talent around Josh Hoover to be up there on this ranking. I think Josh Hoover he's a good quarterback. I think he might have no, that was Kyle McCord. He was at least top 5 in passing yards this season. I just think that if you have teams like Texas Tech or maybe even ASU, if their defensive line improves like I think they will, and some of these teams with good defensive lines and pass rush, and if they get to Josh Hoover, he's more of a pocket passer. I think if they try and make Josh Hoover go outside of the pocket, make some electrifying plays, I think that might be the key to beat TCU, and I guarantee you a bunch of other defensive coordinators and head coaches know this. I think Josh Hoover, they have a good line, and if the defensive front isn't that good, I think he'll be fine. But I just don't think he is the type of quarterback to carry a team, and especially a team that lost Jack Betch, Savion Williams, their 2 best receivers. I think TCU's a good team, so I'm going to have their floor at 6-6. And I'm going to have their ceiling at 9-3.
Yeah, so I actually have TCU at 7 for me. I do like this team. I think Josh Hoover's a great quarterback. His stats last year were really great. But this TCU team, I do not see currently as a very big threat. They do play North Carolina in week 1. That'll be a pretty big game. I think their ceiling could be very high at 9-3, but I think their floor could be pretty bad at 5-7. For TCU standards for this year, I think that's pretty good. I think they could definitely be in the running for the Big 12 championship, kind of as a little bit of a scary contender, but hidden in the back.
Yeah, so my 7th ranked team, this might be the biggest wild card in the Big 12 just because we don't quite know. I have Kansas in the 7th spot, and this entirely the Kansas season revolves around Jalen Daniels' health. I think when healthy, he is one of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12. Dealt with injuries his whole career. I think if he can stay healthy, I know they lost Evan Neal, I know they lost Quinn and Skinner, but I think that he can lead this team to a Big 12 championship. I think I was very impressed with what he did in week 0 against an above average group of 5 team in Fresno State. I think that their floor is probably 6-6. If there's an injury to Daniels or if he just doesn't play as well as I think he will, their ceiling is 10-2 because I think with a healthy Jalen Daniels and if he is as good as I think he can be, I think that they're right there in the mix in the Big 12 championship conversation.
For my number 6 seed, Iowa State, definitely Rocco Becht could have done better, which, yes, it could have been the rain, but he did scare me in the first half, and I think he definitely could have done better, but it also was first week. They were on a major time difference, all that. So I'm giving him a little bit of grace, not as much to Avery Johnson because we can expect better from him, but I think he definitely could have done better. And I like Iowa State at 6. I think their floor could be 7-5, and I think their ceiling is 9-3. I don't see them going past 9 wins just because of that little bit of shakiness with their quarterback after what he did in this recent game.
Yeah, so my number 6 team, I know I said Kansas was the biggest wild card. I think there is a second biggest wild card that would have to be Utah. So the thing that everyone's going to say, they brought in Devin Dampier from New Mexico. They brought in their offensive coordinator with him. There's a lot of expectations on Dampier. Of course, he is one of the better dual threat quarterbacks in the league. I don't think he has to be the superstar quarterback that everyone else says he is for Utah to be good. And I think Utah, if they had at least average quarterback play, I think they might have been at least somewhere, at least talked about in the Big 12 because they had a good running back, they had good receivers, they had an amazing offensive and defensive line. I think they had just above average quarterback play, which I do think Devin Dampier could be. I think that they were right there. The thing that scares me, they have the best offensive line in the Big 12, maybe even the country. They have in my opinion, the best offensive tackle in the country, Spencer Fano. Their line should be able to bulldoze people, especially in the Big 12. Their defensive line, that's what they're all about. Their defensive identity, that is what Utah football has been when they won 2 straight Pac-12 championships. I think they're coming back. Devin Dampier, I think he'll at least be an above average quarterback. I think my floor would be 7-5 and my ceiling would be 11-1. I think very highly of this Utah team.
Yeah, so speaking of Utah, I got them as my number 5 spot in these power rankings. A lot of a lot of just Utah fans think that they're like coming from the shadows and they're going to come back. A lot of people think that Utah's a great team this season, and no one really thinks that they are kind of done. They have a really great coach, and let's just get the word straight. I think Utah could go 10-2 this season. They have Devin Dampier, a great player, and their offensive line is really good. Their floor though, I got 7-5. So 7-5, and their ceiling is 10-2.
Yeah, so I have Kansas State at my 5 spot. So I think my opinion on them has changed. My ranking has not. If I were to make these before the game on week 0, I probably would have had them here just because the game honestly kind of validated my concerns for this Kansas State team, and that is Avery Johnson. Most people are going to say, oh, he had a good stat line. He was 21 for 30 with 300 passing yards. I think he had just under that, and 2 touchdowns. And yeah, he did good. He had the big plays, of course, 2 big touchdowns to their receivers. It's just the little plays that concern me because I always knew he's capable of throwing the deep ball and making the big highlight reel plays. It's just the little throws, the check downs, the out routes, the slant routes up the middle. Just some throws that he missed that I think that a consistent quarterback should make. I think Avery Johnson's going to take a better step. I just don't think that that step is going to be as big as some people think. If he can be more consistent and work on the little things, because the big things are there, I think Kansas State ceiling is 11-1 and a Big 12 championship win. But if they play kind of how they did yesterday, and the big plays, you can't expect them to happen. They don't just appear out of thin air. I have their ceiling at floor at 7-5.
Okay, yeah, for my number 4 team, I'm going to go with Kansas. Now, I would not have Kansas this high, but they bodied Fresno State, and I'm definitely more high on this team. Looking at Kansas's schedule, they play West Virginia for their first game. They play Cincinnati. They play UCF. All 3 of those are winnable games. They play Texas Tech. Definitely could be a loss. Then they play Kansas State, so 2 losses maybe in a row. But if Jalen Daniels is playing his best, he could win both of those. Then they play Oklahoma State. Then they play U of A. Then they play Iowa State and Utah. That is a very, very easy schedule in my books with it spread out. I have this team going 11-1 as my ceiling, and I think their floor is 8-4. So I don't think they get under 8 wins. I'm very high on this Kansas team, and I think they could go very far.
Yeah, that's pretty bold. But my 4 seed, that is Iowa State. I think that I have more concerns than answers in this game because, and that mainly has to do with the receivers. Of course, Brett Eskleton, Overby, they did good. I just need to see it from their 2 receivers, Xavier Townsend and Chase Soul. They didn't get a single catch. I think they're going to need to have an impact if Iowa State wants any chance of competing and making a run in the college football playoff. I think Rocco Becht, if you look at his stat line, you would think he's the worst quarterback. I think he made some elite throws that elite quarterbacks make, and I don't think all of that was his fault, his 50% completion percentage. There were a lot of drops if you were to watch that game. He did miss some throws, but I think Rocco Becht is top 5 quarterback in the Big 12, a loaded Big 12 quarterback conference. I think Iowa State, if their receivers can make the leap, I think that their ceiling is 11-1. But right now, I'd say their floor is 7-5.
Okay, yeah, for my number 3 team, I have Baylor. And this Baylor team is they definitely have high expectations this season. And I think a big swing game for them is going to be week 4 against ASU. Baylor, I think they're definitely going to be a great team. And this is kind of year 2 of them having kind of high expectations. I feel like a lot of people thought that they were going to be pretty good last year, which they weren't bad, but they definitely had a very, very, very slow start. And I think they're going to get to a very fast start in this season. I think they could end the season a little bit slower, kind of the opposite of last season. But I have this team's floor as 7-5 because they still could kind of go under expectations. But I have this team's ceiling at 10-2.
Yeah, so I also have Baylor at my 3rd spot. They're an interesting team because last year their schedule was very front-loaded. They played Utah, BYU, and Colorado and Iowa State all before Halloween, and I think they have an even more front-loaded schedule with Auburn, ASU, Kansas State, SMU, also all before Halloween. We need to see it, and we need to see it early if we think that Baylor is going to contend. And if you look at this time last year, DeQuan Finn was their projected starting quarterback. Sawyer Robertson was just a backup. And this is clearly Sawyer Robertson's team, sorry. And I think that Bryson Washington, he's a top 10 running back in the country. I think their receivers, everyone wants to point to Josh Cameron. I think they have 3 other guys that could make immediate impact, that being Ashton Hawkins from Texas State. He transferred here a year ago, had a good season. Cole Wilson, he also came from Texas State. He was probably the best receiver there. He actually had a great game against ASU. And Kobe Prentice, Alabama transfer, that always says something about he played there. He didn't get much playing time, but he has a lot of potential. I think Baylor, their offense is going to be explosive. Their defense is where I have concerns. They have Keaton Thomas, Jackie Marshall, and Caden Jenkins from linebacker, defensive line, and corner, respectively. Other than that, I don't think they have the talent, really, to have an elite defense. The only thing that reassures me is that Dave Aranda is a defensive-minded head coach. They're going to make some schemes kind of similar to what the Cardinals did last year when they didn't have a ton of talent, but they had a good defensive coordinator that made it work. I expect that with Dave Aranda this year. Baylor, I think they have a tough schedule, so I'm going to say their floor is 6-6. I think their ceiling is 10-2. And I think with 10-2, with wins over maybe Auburn, who I think I would probably put them in my top 25, with wins over, I hope not, but ASU, they're definitely in my top 25. I think that might be good enough for an at-large bid.
I think me and Quinn got the same ones, but at Texas, I got number 2 at Texas Tech. I think Texas Tech is a really very good team this season. They definitely got a lot of transfers, but we don't know how this is going to work out. So my floor for Texas Tech is going to be 6-6, actually very low because of all their transfers. We don't know how they're going to act. I think my ceiling for them is going to be 11-1 because I think they could have a great year, but my floor is definitely very low for Texas Tech.
I'm going to basically repeat the exact same thing JT said. I have the same floor and ceiling. They have a lot of transfers. The only thing I know for sure is that their defense is elite. They have David Bailey, one of the best edge rushers, and Jacob Rodriguez, one of the best linebackers in the Big 12. They're going to be good. So Texas Tech is my 2 seed.
Okay, and then me and Quinn both all obviously have ASU at 1 because we haven't seen this team play yet, but we already know who their coach is, we know who their quarterback is, and we are certain what this team looks like. Now, you got to have the mind of Kenny Dillingham here. They could go 3-9, and that's just being honest, but they could go 12-0. And whether they do that, I still believe in what Kenny Dillingham does, and I still believe in what he says. No matter what this team does, I still believe in him, but I'm going to be having my floor as 6-6 for ASU, but I have my ceiling at 12-0. And whenever you believe in a guy like Kenny Dillingham, it's just they could go 12-0 whenever you see his press conferences and whenever you see what he says. It's just really easy to believe.
Yeah, I'm not going to go and elaborate because I could probably talk to you for an hour on why I think ASU is going to be good. If you want to hear that, just watch all my podcasts from like 8 months ago and here. I think that their floor is probably 7-5, and that's just if injuries happen, things don't go the right way, they lose some of the one-score games that they won a year ago. I think their ceiling's definitely 12-0. I look at every team on the schedule, and I'm like, there's not a single game that I'm like, ooh, this is going to be a tough one that I don't think we're going to win. Legitimately, this might be a bold statement, but I think if ASU plays their best game, they're better than any team in the country. They're better than Texas. They're better than Ohio State. And I'm probably going to get a ton of comments saying, yo, Texas is so much better than ASU. They beat you last year. But if you really watch this team, if they play their best game, which I know that's going to happen at some point, they can beat anyone in the country. So just watch out for ASU this season.
Okay, well, thank you guys for watching this very long episode. I'm very excited for the college football season, and if you guys like the setup, let me know. I could do some more in here, but AZ Sports Roundup definitely got some bright days ahead of us, and thank you to go subscribe to Podcast Primer. That is the guy who helped us set this up. I will put the link in the description. He did great work, and thank you so much to Jacob Bozer at that Podcast Primer. This was a great episode. It's been JT Hill. Hopefully you got a great day. And that's Quinn Bewley checking out. Goodbye.